Hi, my name's Kitty Fitton, and this is a new show that's all about, well, normal people like me, normal people like you. It's called Ordinary Life. I was asked to do something about disability and health, and I went away and I thought about that, and I thought, I don't want to do a programme about the disabled. I don't want to do a programme about people that are ill. I don't really think that people that have things like disability or illness think of themselves as being disabled. They don't think of themselves as being sick. I myself have had Parkinson's for over 8 years, and I just think of myself as being a normal, ordinary person. So when I was asked to do the programme for Coast Access Radio, I went away and thought about it very, very hard and came back and said, I'd love to do something like that, as long as it's not just about disability, as long as it's about people, and hopefully that's what we're going to give you. So that's some background, very unscripted, straight off the top of the head, and welcome to Ordinary Life. So, without any further ado, this week I'm going to talk to a friend of mine and someone who shares my affliction, if you like, who's my friend Emma Kyriakou. Emma, we met very by chance, really, hey, because we had a mutual friend, and when I was chatting to them at the school gate, they said, "Oh my word, you should meet my friend Emma." Why did she say that?
Because we both have Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she kind of said to me, I know someone else who's a woman in her 40s, and she's got kids just like you, and she's also got Parkinson's. And I went, blow me down.
I know, because they're always telling people that there's 1 in 10 people with Parkinson's, and that there's very few people around under the age of 60. Parkinson's traditionally affects men over the age of 62, and I think we can fairly safely say that neither of us are male. And I was the youngest person with Parkinson's in Carpedy until I met Emma, who was younger than me.
It's not a race.
No.
It was a mutual friend who introduced us, and which was quite odd, really, because we'd both been involved in we've both been involved in various things. We didn't meet through that context, and it's actually quite hard to build a support network when you're working most of the time, and all the support groups were on during the day, and sort of it was all not really kind of conducive to us meeting, but thankfully we had a friend in common.
Yeah.
Because
it was really important, I think, for both of us as well.
Yeah.
Because I know that my diagnosis had come about through a complete shock, and I think I met you about a year or so after I'd been diagnosed. And very much my diagnosis was at first, go away, there's nothing wrong with you. And then, oh, maybe there is something wrong with you. Oh, it turns out you've got Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And they just kind of sent me home, really.
Yeah.
And I think something similar happened to you.
Yeah, you don't really, well, from what I went through, I was basically told, well, first of all, it was a very, very long process, but at the end of it, it was, we think you've got this, and here's the drugs, and that was all. And I was also told something along the lines of, if you want to do things like exercise and diet, that's great, that's up to you. You go explore. We're the drugs people. And that was about all you got. But thankfully I did go home and do a bit of a Google, as you do, and found Parkinson's New Zealand, but which was great to get the community educator who was here at the time, her help. But it's actually finding, I right from the get-go wanted to build a support network, and have, because I firmly believe that patient to patient, we call patients, but peer-to-peer networking and support is the way to go for dealing with these things. And just having you to talk to has been a godsend, because really don't really have anyone else who kind of just gets it.
Yeah. I know that I found the same thing, in that it's all well and good having information available online and having a nurse or a medical practitioner is really, really good. But having a connection with somebody about your age and the same kind of life situation has been invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, because we've both got children, we both got, you know, families and stuff, and juggling all that as well as Parkinson's
yeah.
So do we have the same thing, Emma? Because a lot of people will just go, oh, well, we both got this.
The thing with Parkinson's is it's, or from what I know of it, it doesn't seem to be just one thing. It seems to be personalised to the person who has it. Everybody seems to be quite different in terms of what they go through and the symptoms they have, the drugs they get prescribed. We're both on very different regimens. And what they get told by the medical profession, what they find out through other means, all sorts of things. And it's all different types of people. It's not just...
It's not just Michael J. Fox.
It's not just Michael J. Fox. As much as I love what he's done for Parkinson's in the community, we're not all, you know, happening movie stars.
Wow.
Some of us are ordinary.
Goodness me. Who'd have thought it? I mean,
and some of us are female and young, and I think there does seem to be a bit of a thing that the people who get it young are a bit different from, in terms of the disease and what disease is a word.
that
what
segues really nicely into the next point of why are we not calling it Parkinson's disease? I mean, personally, for a while, I was like, is it a disease? Is it a condition? Is it I like dopamine deficiency disorder, because Parkinson's is actually a lack of dopamine in your brain that affects artificial movement. So I would love it to be called something like that. It's actually named after James Parkinson, who discovered the shaking palsy. And I believe they came up with Parkinson's because they thought people didn't want to be described as shaking, which is quite good, because I don't always shake. I just sometimes drag my leg around. What about you?
I've personally come to just call it Parkinson's. I dropped the disease. I went through a period of time where I felt like it locked me out of being a well person, having disease attached to me. It may well be a disease, it may be a disorder, but whatever it is, I get a lot of... I feel better now that I've kind of become mates with it in terms of Parkinson's, you know. I can just go, it's Parkinson's, you know, it kind of has that kind of... It is what it is, but I think there's a little bit of a mental sleight of hand that you have to do, where you don't sort of, well, I don't look straight at it. I sort of, you know, because you do have to live your life, and you have to have hope that, you know, your future is going to be, that you're going to be okay. And so part of that for me is not putting a lot of focus on disease, and I'm not putting a lot of focus on degenerative. Yeah. Those kind of words.
Because when you do find out they go, oh, you have Parkinson's disease, and you think, wow, what is that? And then you realise it's things like, I remember the doctor saying really cheerful stuff like degenerative and incurable, and I was like, whoa, this is a pivotal life moment for me.
That's a lot, you know, and doesn't land on you lightly, and that's another reason why I dropped the disease, because to give someone else the message, you know, I've got Parkinson's, it lands a little bit lighter on the person when you say it like that. I feel.
But how do you tell someone? Because that's another big thing, isn't it? You know, I don't know about you, but you're having a conversation with someone, and then they'll be like, well, for me, most recently, I was having a conversation at like a gathering of neighbours, and somebody said to me that they worked with people who couldn't look after themselves, like people with Parkinson's. And I was like, this is the moment where I have to say something. And it was, you say, I have Parkinson's, and the whole world goes, it's like dropping a bomb, isn't it?
Yeah. And you often get, I think, but you don't look ...
Yeah. You don't look sick,
you
Emma.
don't-
You look totally fine.
I've more got sort of just straight silence, and it's really hard to deal with that because you don't. I mean, I know saying to someone I've got Parkinson's is hard because what is that, and not many people know, and not many people look at people like me and think that is something that that person could have because they don't look old. They don't look like an old gentleman, sort of just,
What do
hunched
you
over a
want to
stick.
say to people, though, when,
Yeah. I would like people to just go, oh, I don't know much about that. Can you, what's it like for you? And I would rather be asked than get the silence, personally.
Yeah, I find the same thing. And I know that looking back now, I have been guilty of being that person that goes, oh, and not knowing what to say. And I remember a friend of mine who actually was in a wheelchair years ago said, just ask people what's wrong with them. Just say, well, not wrong with them.
Yeah.
Terrible thing to say. But, just say, oh, I don't know anything about that. Or and that they're so right, because I'd much rather people go, I don't know what that is. And I say, that's okay. I usually tell people it's not contagious. It's okay. They can sit close to me and they won't get sick.
But I definitely struggle with the whole kind of we as a society we seem to be quite focused on what something looks like. We're quite looks focused, and people mean well when they say, oh, but you look too young for that, or you look fine, or and you feel, and I sort of kind of go, oh, thanks, sort of thing. But I don't really know what to do with it much other than that, because the response really is, well, actually, it feels pretty hard.
And what do you say when people? I was going to talk about what we do to help, our condition, and I go to the gym quite a lot. I joined a local gym and I go there because exercise is exercise is good for you, and. Personally, I've noticed that we'll talk about the benefits of it in a moment, but people will say, oh, you're doing really great and you exercise, so you must be really healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I exercise because I have to, because if I don't, then my muscles seize up and I can't move very easily. And I fought it really hard for 8 years. I mean, what do you wish people knew? Or
I think it would be beneficial for everyone if we all knew a lot more about what our nervous system is and what things can go wrong with it. And I think it would help a lot for a broad range of people, just to not have to start from that every time you're talking to somebody. What is dopamine? What is it in you? And you get all sorts of things like, I've been told, oh, no, dopamine stuff, you don't want any of that. Stay away from that. That's terrible. That's addiction.
Don't you love the people who say to you, how many tablets do you take every day? I take about 16. How many do you take?
I don't know my number. I don't count it a lot.
Yeah.
Recently I caught up with a relation who is diabetic and takes a lot of medication as well. And we did the whole, what's your pill box look like? Yeah. Which was quite funny. And somebody in the past had said to me, just think of it, as your insulin. If you were a diabetic, you'd take your insulin and you wouldn't. I mean, that's what you need to work.
I am going to call out my own dad on this, because my own father has said to me, oh, that's an awful lot of medication. And I said, yes. And he said, oh, do you not try and knock back a couple of pills, just to not have them? Sorry about the accent. He's from the West Country, so, in the UK. And I said, Dad, if if I don't take a couple of these pills, I don't actually work properly. And he just doesn't understand. He thinks, it's
Pills are bad. Taking lots of things is bad.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. People will say, "Oh, so you have to take them again? Or how many of those do you take? And when do you take them?" And I tell them, and they sort of start getting a bit, sad looking.
Because you do know, Emma, that it's actually all in your mind, right?
Oh, yes, it's definitely all in my brain.
A positive mental attitude can overcome so much.
Yeah, that's.
She's going to hit me in a minute.
There's a light and a dark side to that. The dark side being it's annoying to be told, just put a positive spin on it and you'll be right. But actually, the hope factor is a big part of why we don't talk about disease and those sorts of things. So we need our positivity, but recognising at times it's beyond us, and that's okay sometimes. And you have your downs. Mm-hmm. Like everyone else, and sometimes it can be very hard to see the light, but then you bounce back.
Yeah, and I know that in the early days I heard about this thing called dyskinesia, and I didn't know what it was, and they said, "Oh, it's those involuntary twitches," and I thought, "Wow, that sounds really awful." And then somebody pointed out, they said, "Actually, the Parkinson's is worse than the dyskinesia." Which didn't make sense to me at the time, she says with her arm. And now I have a little bit of dyskinesia. It's not a lot, but I have it. It's starting. It's on its way. It's coming for me. And I realise that they're right, that actually having my arm making these weird little movements is not as bad as not being able to move properly.
Yeah, I think but it does stress you as well, because I think any kind of feeling that you're out of control, especially when you're in a public space, can be disconcerting and hard. It seems to happen to me a lot when I'm at the neurologist and I start writhing.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, yes, I can see the dyskinesias." And I'm like,
so,
oh, dear.
What kind of stuff do you do to try and
That's a big question.
Do you sit in a corner and cry all day?
Sometimes I do, but maybe not all day. Looking after yourself is kind of my full-time job. Aside from taking the meds on time, I do the exercise thing too. Sometimes, mostly every day, but I give myself a break every now and then. Sleep is a big one, like prioritising sleep and rest and relaxation, de-stressing.
What does Emma do to have fun?
Oh, yeah, fun's in there. I don't know, talk to my friend Kitty.
Oh, yeah. We recently it was recently World Parkinson's Day, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right.
And I am going to out you and say out there on the internet you can find dancing for dopamine. And I think that the World Parkinson's Day did was it dopamine dance party?
Yes, a lot of people dancing.
So you can find lots of people with Parkinson's proving that they still got it by dancing, including Emma and myself.
And that is fun. It was a lot of fun. And also creating things, so that ticked both those boxes.
It did, because it's important not to... I think it's important not... It's difficult to not give in to it. It is hard not to do that, and it's very hard when lots of people are like, "Oh, here's a chair," or "You need to relax." Can you work? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I find it very hard because people, you have to say, "No, I don't want that. I actually want to be pushed. I want to work harder. I want to push myself. I don't quite know how long that I can do all those things, so I want to do them while I can." Oh, that sounds really depressing. What do you wish people knew about your day-to-day life, or what do you wish they knew about?
Yeah, I just wish that how hard it is to be to function. All the things I have to do, all the things that have to be right for me to be a normal functioning person. And it means I just need to make really good energy choices, what I spend my energy on, and that's invisible.
Just changing tack slightly as well. We've both got children. That was a really terrible segue into that question. But we've both got, like children, I change my mind really quickly. My children don't seem to give a monkeys that I've got Parkinson's. What do your children think?
My 2 teenagers are exactly the same. Doesn't really bother them that much, or they don't think about it. I do think they have grown up with it a lot more, and it's just business as usual for them. My 6-year-old is a bit of a different story. I kind of walk the line between telling her enough and not too much, so that she doesn't get, kind of anxious. But she's quite, oh, that's because you got Parkinson's, eh, mummy? Sometimes it's quite funny. Everything can just be blamed on Parkinson's.
I remember my son was about 6 when he found out, and one of my oldest daughters said, "Why do we have to walk to school every day?" And he said, "Oh, because Mum's got Parkinson's." And she was like, "Oh, yeah." But now they're getting a bit older, and I went for a bike ride with my 13-year-old, and he did say to me, I said, "Is there anything you want to ask?" And he said, "Mum, are you ever frightened?" And I was like, whoa, kind of blindsided slightly. And I said, yeah, I am frightened. I said, but I can't give in to that. I have to just push that aside. Because there's lots of really scary things about Parkinson's that neither of us have mentioned. That I prefer to push aside.
I think 4 a.m. is my terror time. It's like existential angst at 4 a.m. But yeah, I definitely have a mental game that kind of, or words that I say to myself to, tell myself that I'm fine, I'm safe, it's all good. You've got this. It's a confidence trick, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about living in the present, isn't there? And I know I was told very early on, live in the present, live in the now. And I thought that was quite, I don't know, I wasn't happy about that at the time. I didn't fully understand what it meant. And then I heard about things like, Parkinson's, dementia, and the 5 stages of Parkinson's.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of grim. And then I realised, oh yeah, they mean live in the now. They mean today is great, the sun is shining, I'm here with my friend having a chat.
Yeah. You kind of do have to walk the line between planning but not planning, like having a little bit of a plan and a sense of where you're going but not focusing on it too much.
I prefer having a big bucket of sand and putting my head in it. That works really well for me.
That's a plan.
And what is it when things go wrong? That's a Parky moment.
Yeah. Just blame it on the Parkinson's.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not drunk. I've got Parkinson's. So I'm really glad that we met each other.
Oh, me too. I mean, it's been so good to have someone of the same on the same wavelength and the same group in terms of gender and age and all that.
I was like, wow, are we on the same wavelength? Because sometimes we are wildly different.
Sometimes we are wildly different. That's the part of the fun.
That's good stuff. Yeah. And yeah, you do. Yeah. It's good to have people to share things with, isn't it? Which is why it's a shame quite often, like you say, a lot of the stuff to connect with other people, you end up turning to places like Twitter and groups online to try and find other people.
Yeah. I mean, Twitter and other social media platforms have been good in that we have made friends from overseas in that way, but I mean you don't get the depth and the warmth of a person with you that you get with person to person so I think you do need the local as well as the social media.
Yeah. I've got a blog that I write on, and that's really good and very cathartic, and I find that very, very useful. And that's at kiddifitting.com. Just shameless plug. But on the whole, it's good to get it out. But nothing really beats getting together with someone and having a good old "oh woe is me" session. Sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Usually finished off with tea and dancing. What do you do to cheer up?
Oh God.
That sounds so.
I don't even know. No, I do. It's always music and dancing around the room. That cheers me up no end every single time. How about you? What do you do?
What do I do? It's not supposed to be about you, not me. But, I write about it to cheer up. Well, as you know, I did some comedy, and I write about the things that people say to me about having Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And just general life, because I think truth is stranger than fiction. And there are some very bizarre things happened.
But definitely having a laugh about it is really helpful too, and not to feel so...
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in having a sense of humour about things. And playing with my children, having a laugh with them is really good.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things, having children is a bit of a big deal when you've got something like this, but they have been the bit of my saviour in many, many ways, having children and they make my life way lighter.
Children are pretty cool, aren't
they? They are.
So what's your favourite song, Emma?
My favourite song in the whole world? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, put me on the spot.
Well, I did have an idea that there's a song that I really liked that I thought was perfect for this kind of thing, because it's all about not knowing where you're going in life and not knowing where you're going to end up, which is exactly where we are here. And that is Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads. So I think that might be a great place to finish, don't you?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Thank you so much for coming in, Emma. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been my pleasure.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile, and you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. And you may ask yourself, how do I work this? And you may ask yourself, where is that large automobile? And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. Same as it ever was. 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 Water dissolving and water removing. There is water at the bottom of the ocean. Under the water, carry the water. Remove the water at the bottom of the ocean. Water dissolving and water removing. Letting your days go yourself, where does that highway go to? And you may ask yourself, am I right? Am I wrong? And you may say to yourself, my God, what have I done? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again, into the silent water, under the rocks and stones. There is water underground. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again, after the money's gone. Once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Look where my hand was. Time isn't holding up. Time isn't after us. Same as it ever was. 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 Yeah, Twister comes. Here comes the Twister. Same as it ever was. 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 Once in a lifetime.
This program was made with assistance from New Zealand On Air for radio broadcast and through the accessmedia.org.nz website. Thank you, New Zealand On Air.